of CA Association, Davangere. Respected CA Kiran Patil, President of Davangere CA Association. Learned speaker of today's webinar, CA Mohan R. Lavi from Bangalore. And on behalf of the CB Davangere, we heartily welcome, and sir is going to enlighten and through his necessary knowledge and the updates with respect to code of ethics. I also like to introduce Sri Mohan Arlavi to this August audience. Mr. Mohan Arlavi qualified as chartered accountant in 1989. He has over 30 years of experience in finance roles across a variety of industries. He has worked as CFO for large manufacturing and software companies. In 2017, he shifted from industry to consulting. At present, he is a partner with Mrs. KP Rao and Co. Chartered Accountants, Bangalore, one of the oldest accounting firms in Karnataka, where he leads the INDAS and GST practices of the firms. Mohan was the author of the first book on service tax published in India by Bharat Law House in 1994. The book went into multiple editions. He has authored books on IFRS, INDAS, US GAAP, Sarbanes-Oxley Act, and key audit matters. Mohan sir has spoken at various conferences in India on service tax and is a faculty member with the Institute for their GST programs. Mohan writes regularly for the Hindu Business Line and Deccan Herald on GST and other matters. In spite of his busy schedule, he makes his time to come to this webinar as a resource person. Thank you very much, sir. My colleague members, may I take this opportunity, I also welcome CA Pradeep Jogi from Udupi, who is the moderator for this webinar. Despite his preoccupancy in his professional work, he has agreed to be moderator for this webinar. Thank you, Pradeep sir. May I take this opportunity to welcome you all and to extend a further word of welcome to everyone for this webinar. Members are requested to update knowledge in their present day scenario with regard to code of ethics in day-to-day practices. I also welcome all members to this webinar on code of ethics. I also glad to welcome all of you because of your presence, cooperation and support. We are conducting the webinar right now. I once again welcome one and all. Thank you very much, sir, for giving this opportunity to introduce the learned speaker to this August audience.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, sir. Welcome to seminar, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So, there another announcement ಇದೆ ಶುರು ಮಾಡಲಾ?
Vote of thanks on the present ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ ಸರ್.
ಇವಾಗ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರಾ?
ಈಗಲೇ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡಿ.
ಮಾಡಿ.
Good evening to all of you. Respected CA S. Veerana sir, Honorary President of CA Association Davangere, CA Kiran Patil, Kiran Patil sir, President of CA Association Davangere, CA Munda Surendra Kumar sir, Convener of Davangere CPA chapter. Speakers of the today webinar, CA Mohan R. Lavi sir, and also moderator of this webinar, Sri Pradeep Jogi sir. My colleagues, members, delegates and students, it's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this webinar. First of all, I would like to thank CA Mohan R. Lavi sir, speaker of the today's seminar, for accepting our invitation to enrich our knowledge and enlighten us on code of ethics. In spite of his busy schedule, he has made available at this time and enlighten all of us. I extended my thanks to CA Mohan Ravi sir on behalf of Davangere CPE chapter. I extend my thanks to CA Pradeep Jogi sir, moderator of this today's webinar on behalf of Davangere CPE chapter. And I also extended my thanks to CA GC Sunil for arranging this seminar. And I extend my thanks to all the members, students, participants for actively participating for this webinar. Thank you, one and all.
You can start the session. The session is started.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, everyone namaskara, and let me also thank the Davangere branch and also Udupi branch for organizing, giving me this opportunity for organizing to talk on this code of ethics. Udupi branch ga avarantu idu moorne sati idu, so I think avare ಮಾತಾಡಬಹುದು ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ next time ಇಂದ. So I don't think it will next ಏನಾದರೂ program ಇದ್ರೆ ಅವರೇ ಮಾತಾಡಬಹುದು ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. But it's really good that they're actually coordinating this, because actually the code of ethics has become a sort of mandatory from 1st of July. But actually, more importantly, more than the content of the code of ethics, I think it is the change in the way the code of ethics has been presented. ಅದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಕಂಪೇರ್ಡ್ ಟು ವಾಟ್ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಪ್ರೀವಿಯಸ್ಲಿ. So that is what we'll be looking at, and of course we'll look at a lot of practical situations also. This is what my purpose has been. My intention is the next 2 hours, then I'll explain Martin. Of course, members can have a lot of questions which we can always address later on a Q&A session. We can always look at the questions later on during Q&A session. Normally ಏನ್ ಬರುತ್ತಂದ್ರೆ questions ನಮಗೆ ಅಡ್ವರ್ಟೈಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದಾ, ನಾವು ವೆಬ್ಸೈಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕ್ಬೋದಾ, ನಾವು or can we advertise in urban clap ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕ್ಬೋದಾ ಅಂತದ್ questions ಬರುತ್ತೆ. So the session is not, it'll try to cover those aspects also, but it is more a session about the overall code than about specific answers as such. But no, we'll try to answer these questions also, right? So ಇವಾಗ ನೀವು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವತ್ from 1963 they always had a code of ethics. The first edition was issued in October 1963. Andre idu 1949 the Chartered Accountants Act was passed, and within 14 years I think the institute felt it necessary that there should be a code of ethics for the members in general. Not that there were too many issues which had cropped up in those 14 years, but they felt that it's always better on code idre avaglo better. And the first edition was issued in 1963. Adana ಹೇಳಿದಂಗೆ we still keep thinking that code of ethics ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಇಷ್ಟು ಮಾಡಬಹುದು, ಇಷ್ಟು ಮಾಡಬಾರದು, ಅದು ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಕಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಹಾಕಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ. But as you will see today, the nature in which this code of ethics has been approached is slightly different. It's called risk mitigation now, more than a list of do's and don'ts. It's more the actual operative word is now risk mitigation. Within the risk atmosphere we are working in, how we can possibly mitigate the risks we are facing in our profession. Although I think that's a very important part of the code of ethics. We also should know that the profession has changed over the years. What we are seeing today, 1963 bandittu nimge first edition of the code of ethics. So even noಡ್ತಿರೋ the 12th edition. So 11 times the code of ethics has changed over the last 47 years. But which approximate means one new code of ethics has come once in every 4 years on an average. But more importantly, the profession has changed a lot over the years. And then you ನೋಡಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಪೇಪರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿರ್ಬೋದು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ನೀವು ಸಹ, that this NFRA, the National Financial Regulatory Authority, has given an adverse order against the partner of Deloitte, and also told him that he has to pay a 25 lakhs penalty for the ILFS this ILFS episode. ಮುಂಚೆ ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ಈ ತರ ಆಗಿದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ. It has never happened in our country at all that a professional has been charged by a regulatory authority. The institute was they had their own disciplinary committee, and they were invariably looking at banning the members from public practice, banning the member from public practice. Atara sumar orders bandide institute inda, but it is only for a period of about 6 months. Maximum they could do was for 6 months. But inta on the adverse order going public and saying that he cannot practice as a chartered accountant for 7 years, and putting a monetary fine. There's an appeal pending in Delhi High Court. So it's very obvious that the profession has changed over the years. Because of that, the reason for us to be more careful in our professional ethics ಇನ್ನೂ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಇವಾಗ, especially after considering all this NFRA and all those people who have come into the picture. Members, again, very important to understand that this code of ethics will have to be followed. Otherwise, nowadays there are people who are looking at things which are a little bit more seriously. We've got regulators looking at things a little bit more seriously. So we'll have to be a little bit more extra careful than what we are. ಮುಂಚೆ ಬರಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು 1/4/2020 ಇಂದ, but now it is already applicable from 1st of July 2020. No further extension is there because of the 3 months of lockdown and COVID and all. There was a situation as far as implementing the standards and the code of ethics is concerned, but ivaga it's already become mandatory from 1st of July. So we will have, as we are speaking today, we are looking at the new code. So idu namge no extension given. Small firms, medium firms, individual proprietors, large firms, antadenu there's no difference at all idralli, eldrigu baruttido. So everybody will have to follow this. There's no like accounting standards, there's no exemption given for small practitioners or such people, right? But now I'm going to reproduce one the 1963 code in the one sentence which I liked a lot. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ನಾನು. Ethics is a state of mind, all that is fine, but one sentence is very, very beautiful there. They said that the council, which was at time, of course, the central council, we did not have so many committees at that point of time. The council exhorts all the members to search their hearts and conscience whenever in doubt, and thereby assist towards the maintenance of high principles. So our Bandhutu, they did not say that ishtu madabeko, ishtu madabaradu anta ಏನು ಹೇಳಿಲ್ಲ. All they said was that you search your heart and conscience. Why it is very, very important even today. And that sentence called searching your heart and conscience, because ethics ನಾವು ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಒಂದು 2 hour session and 4 hour session ಮಾಡಬಹುದು, ಇಷ್ಟು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಇಷ್ಟು ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು ನಾವು. But end of the day, I think what is important, ಎಲ್ಲಿದು ಇಂಪ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗತ್ತಂದ್ರೆ when you are practicing that ethics, or when you are in a situation wherein you have to take a decision, you want decision ತಗೋಬೇಕು, and at that point of time is when your ethics will come into play. Anta samayadalli, if you look at this 1963 code, the sentence which says that search your hearts and conscience, you will know what I'm trying to say, because now, as I said, we can probably inform all of you to do this, but ಸಮಯ ಬಂದಾಗ ಆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನ you have to look at it very specifically. I'll just give an example, because that will probably relates to all of you who are practicing in Davangere also. Probably by September you have to file your GSTR 9C for many of your clients irbodu, and GSTR 9C one column ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, that any other item which the chartered accountant feels, that the auditor feels that tax has to be paid ಅಂತ, it's in the last table, second last table ಇದೆ ಅದು, right? So ನೀವು ಯಾವುದೊಂದು GSTR 9 ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ ನೀವು, and there is one transaction, or there is one revenue which has completely not fallen under GST. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕ್ಲೈಂಟ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ, ಪೇನು ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ, so he thought it was exempt, but it is actually not exempt. This you have discovered, and for all practical purposes you will have to put it in the 9C. ನೀವು ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. But client says that's let us assume that the amount is quite huge, tax is quite huge. The client is probably going to come and tell you, ಈಗಷ್ಟೇ ಕೋವಿಡ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಯ್ತು ನಮ್ಗೆ, so where is the question of paying so much of tax? Big, you please omit it, I will not pay tax on this. At this point of time, please remember this code. Are you doing correctly by leaving it in your GSTR 9C? ಅಷ್ಟೇ ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದು. ನೀವು ಬಿಡ್ತಿರೋ ಅಥವಾ ನೀವು ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋ ಅಥವಾ ask him to pay the tax, that's a different issue altogether. But the point I'm trying to emphasize is this word called as searching your hearts and conscience would be very, very important at the critical moment when the decision has to be taken on such matters. Anta time matra you should look at what we should do. ಈಗ ನಮಗೆ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿರೋ ಕೋಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ನೀವು, this is built into, unlike the previous code we just had one book, we have a lot of parts in the code. We have actually got 4 parts, and it talks about also professional accountants in service. ಈಗ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್, ಕೋಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಾಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ let us face the fact that okay, ILFS, we know that okay, one big firm was the auditor, itala NFRA bandbidide, and they have got the auditor, all that is fine. The question we have to ask is, would ILFS have been possible if somebody in the company had not done what they had to do? Or in other words, should not the code of conduct be also applicable to somebody in the company? Inta idralli, the professional accountants in service also, your HOSA code is also covering them, telling them what to do, what not to do. Of course, ಇವತ್ತಿನ presentation ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನು ಕವರ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, because I know that I'm talking only to chartered accountants, most of you who are in practice. So, but the good thing is that there are specific requirements of professional accountants in service, and if this code is implemented, the institute itself, the ICAI itself, can take necessary action against the member who is in service also. ಮುಂಚೆ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಇದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ ಅದು, but now it has become a little bit more specific. So ಇದು ಹೆಂಗಂದ್ರೆ, it's a question of who made the mistake first, the auditor or the client, right? It always has to be the client. Auditor comes in much later. So with this new code, in my opinion, the professional accountants in service can also get a degree of responsibility. They can also become a little bit more careful, and they also need to worry about the fact that this code is applicable to them, and internally they are, people are watching them and they are going to face some actions for violation. Unfortunately, what has happened, the code is coming in 3 volumes. It's a very extensive document. 581 pages is total 581 pages there. The institute has also come out with something called as Compendium of Accounting Standards, which is 600 pages. So ನೀವು ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಇಂಥ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಕೋಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಎಥಿಕ್ಸ್ ಗೆ ವೈಸ್ 581 pages, and for accounting standards we got 600 pages. The question is that, do we really require so much of content, or do we require so much of information or material on the code of conduct, 581 pages? But if you look at the structure, how the code of ethics has been done, why these 3 volumes? The first volume is obviously the code itself, the main code, what it says about the code of conduct. The second volume contains a list of your schedules, schedule 1 and schedule 2, what we should do, what we should not do, although the do's and don'ts for the members. So, and more than volume only, we have got what is called as the case laws. Whatever the PDC committee has decided in the past, all those things have been summarized into the case laws, which form a part of your volume 3. That is why it is slightly voluminous. But my advice to all of you would be that whenever you get the time, it's not going to be possible probably immediately, please have a look at all the 3 volumes, because it will give you a perspective as to what is becoming important. And this code of ethics is so voluminous also because it is just in tune with the international code of ethics, or international hang madidaro hange bandide idu kuda. So it is the same basis of as the international code of ethics. So we are again following the international norms, but it is important that members should know about what, despite the length of the code, we should know what is the content of the code. So that's why it becomes important for all of you all to read the entire code here. So this is what I was been telling you about, right? So if you look at the way this has been written, and it is not a question of, as I was telling you all, ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತದಿಲ್ಲ ಇವಾಗ. They are talking about what are the 5 pillars on which the code of ethics has been built, and they're talking about concepts of integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, and professional behavior. It is expected that all the members will be having this. It is expected, it is given that you will be having these 5 pillars. So if these 5 pillars are not there, pillar andre is what you can call as a support system for this. If pillar illa andre, there is no point in reading the code of ethics. So there is an inbuilt assumption in the code of ethics that all members will have a lot of integrity. They will definitely be having a lot of objectivity. Professional competence is definitely very, very important. And basically what they're trying to say is that if you feel that you cannot do a particular assignment, do not take it. You can probably take the assistance of somebody else to do it if you want, but professional competence illa andre, when they use the word competence, we're not using it in a negative sense. All they are saying is that you may not be able to do it yourself. Maybe you require some outside assistance to do it. Confidentiality is very, very important, and professional behavior. You would observe that even in the past, ಮುಂಚೆ ಕೂಡ ಬಂದಿರೋ ತುಂಬಾ ಕೇಸಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, professional behavior has become a talking point. Member has not behaved professionally. Member has not lived up to the high standards of the CA Institute. ಅವ್ರು ಈ ತರ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದಾಗಿತ್ತು because he's a chartered accountant in practice. So ಇಂಥದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ there is a lot of expectation that they will definitely have to behave professionally. And of course, these 5 pillars have also been explained in the code of ethics through specific things here. Straightforward and honest in all professional and business relationships. Not to compromise on professional or business judgments because of bias, conflict of interest, or undue influence of others. Ensure that the client receives professional, competent professional service. And confidentiality, andre, you will have to maintain the confidentiality of information required as a result of professional and business relationships. And you'll have to comply with all the laws and regulations. Even the 5 pillars are noted, members will be able to make out that this is something like your, what is to be done on a day in and day out basis. We all know this. We all face these challenges. ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಈ challenge. I'll just give you an example. One example ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ so that you'll understand what I'm talking about is very, very important, right? We are not going to, look at all these 5 things because there are examples or case laws for the remaining things. I will just give you this objective because ತುಂಬಾ ಜನರಿಗೆ objective integrity ಗೊತ್ತು ನಮಗೆ, we have to be honest ಅಂತ. Competence ಎಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತುಂಟು ನಮಗೆ because we have to be very competent, confidential, all that. I talk about this objectivity, and the objectivity has been explained in the code of ethics to say that not to compromise professional or business judgments because of bias, conflict of interest, or undue influence of others. ಇದು ತುಂಬಾ ಸಲ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಬರುತ್ತಿದ್ದು. Many a time we are faced with this problem. ಯಾರೋ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಇನ್ಫ್ಲೂಯೆನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ನೋಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಆರ್ ಇಟ್ ಮೇ ಬಿ ಬಯಸ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಐ ನೋ ದ ಕ್ಲೈಂಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ಸೋ ಮೆನಿ ಇಯರ್ಸ್. ಅವನೇನೋ ಒಂದು ಕೇಳ್ತಾನೆ, ಅವ್ರು ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರು, ನಾವು ವಿ ಮೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಬಜ್ ಟು ದಟ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ಸ್ ಅ ವೆರಿ, ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್. ಸೊ the standard or the code of ethics is saying that be objective in all your relationships. And I'll just give an example, which I've told in the previous seminars also. I have a friend of mine who's a chartered accountant. He's a practicing chartered accountant down in Hyderabad. I know him for a past so many years, many years, and we speak almost on a regular basis, at least once a month. ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿರ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು. ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಬಂದೇ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಇಂಡಿಯಸ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, IFRS ಇರ್ಬೋದು, GST ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಬಂದೇ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. So we keep having some conversation or other. He was appointed as, he also passed the insolvency professional exam, IPA exam. So he was doing the resolution for a very, I think it was some local firm, Hyderabad based firm, but it was in a pretty bad shape. And they had got a notice from the service tax department after they went into insolvency. So during that time they were in insolvency, they got a notice from the service tax department. They got a notice and the amount was quite huge, around 15 or 20 crores, the demand for service tax. So because he was the insolvency professional, he asked me that, can you give me an opinion on the taxability and all those things. I said, okay, yeah, I can do it, no problem with it. I looked into the provisions and saw that out of about 20 crores of demand, maybe about 10 crores may have to be paid, and 10 crores was exempt. Baki 8 crores they had to pay. There was no two ways about it. So I gave my opinion accordingly. I told him that out of this 18 crores, 10 crores is exempt and 8 crores you will definitely have to pay. So he seemed to be quite okay. One thing matte phone madada matte kelada avanu. He said that there is a request that you please change your opinion, and in that opinion you say that everything is taxable. So I asked him, why would I do that? He said, no, there is because of the committee of creditors, it was actually mixed to some payment issue and all those things. And obviously he was trying to get a slightly higher amount by way of getting that payment. I flatly refused. I told him I cannot do it. You may be a good friend of mine for a long time, but I'll not be able to change my opinion. Once I have given an opinion, that opinion stays. Objectivity andre ashte adu. So I will not compromise on business or professional judgments only because of bias, conflict of interest, or undue influence of others. So this is as I have told you about the other aspects also, even for this aspect, it is very important that the entire code of ethics nodidre nivella, it ultimately translates into how you are behaving in that moment. ಈ ಪವರ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಕಳಿಸ್ಬಿಡಿ ದಾವಣಗೆರೆ ಬ್ರಾಂಚ್ಗೆ. ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನ 10 ಸತಿ ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು, ನೀವು 10 ಸತಿ ಓದ್ಬೋದು, ಮನಪಾಠ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಮೇಕ್ ಇಟ್ ಬೈ ಹಾರ್ಟ್, ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬಹುದು ನೀವು. ಬಟ್ ಇದು ಯಾವಾಗ ಯೂಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಆ ಮೊಮೆಂಟ್ ಆ ಕ್ಷಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಾಗ ಅಟ್ ದಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ರಿಮೆಂಬರ್ ವಾಟ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಅಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ಲಿ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಷನಲಿ. ಅಷ್ಟೇ ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ, ರೈಟ್? ಸೊ this is as far as objective. Of course ಬಾಕಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತುಂಟು. We know about confidentiality, we know about professional behavior. See, this confidentiality also, it is now NDA sign ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ. We keep on giving NDA, non-disclosure agreements. Are we really adhering to that NDA? Is that really what ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಅದನ್ನ NDA ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಾ, ಅಥವಾ even in a loose moment or in a weak moment are we giving the information? This becomes another important part of the code of ethics. So pillar ಅಲ್ಲಿ you have to keep all these 5 pillars in your mind. ಇದು ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ. This is for misconduct for other behavior, for this professional behavior. Adikkidu. Gurvinder Singh, chartered accountant, he was practicing, and he had a client. The client had come and told him that I have got certain shares in a company. I want you to sell those shares. And of course, our time we did not have demat account and online selling and all this. You had to physically put in a share transfer form. You'll give it to the person who wants to buy the share or the broker. The broker will ensure that the shares are sold and you will get your money after about 10 or 15 days. That was what was happening previously. There was no demat account and all these things. So when client and Madada Bandhuta share transfer form, he gave it to Gurvinder Singh and told him that, can you please find a broker? I mean, actually acting like a broker, but can you sell these shares? Gurvinder Singh said, okay, fine, no problem. I will do it until what he did was, he did not sell the shares to anybody, but he transferred the transfer form to himself. What he did was, he bought it at 20 rupees from the client and sold it much later at a much higher price. Probably at double the price, whatever it may be. So the client got very angry with him and went to the ICA and told this is professional misconduct because you did not tell me that you're going to buy the shares yourself, but instead you bought the shares and you made a more profit than what I would have got. Therefore, it is professional misconduct. Anta client hogbittu complained to the ICA. The ICA in their order have said that, but I think if I'm not wrong, this went to High Court also. This is nothing but bringing disrepute to the profession. It is not the fact that you have bought the shares of your client. That is not at all a problem. You could have definitely bought the shares of your client, no problem. The fact that you have not disclosed this to him at the time of purchase, you're bringing disclosure to the profession. So this can take the form of confidentiality. This can take the form of professional disclosure. This can also take the form of objectivity. All three combinations can be here in this. So the purpose appears to be that you please disclose whatever you are doing with the client in the spirit of true disclosure. So the High Court, 100 shares goes through, they had to go to the High Court. The High Court ruled that there is a definite case here. You're bringing disrepute to the profession. Therefore, it's a professional misconduct. This, of course, it's a humorous case. So can include this is a very old case of 1975. This has come in volume 3 of the Code of Conduct. This is P.N.S. Murthy versus D.V. Lakshmanarao. Article luck. Article lucks. I think some of the people may also be, who are listening to this, may also be article lucks, but I hope they do not take the necessary, hint from this case. So this P.N.S. Murthy was the article clerk and Lakshmanarao was the principal, I think. And the principal had some agricultural land. During the course of the articleship, what he has done is that he has asked the article clerk to also do some agricultural work. You will not believe it, but that's how the case law has developed here, right? Also do some actual agricultural work. Andre farm kelsa maadi anta ಹೇಳಿದಾನೆ article clerk. Article clerk said, okay, fine, I will do it. Anta papa articles time ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾಕೆ ನಾವು ಇದು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು, I think he obliged and he was also able to do this work. He did this work, and articleship ಮುಗಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ he went and found he filed a case with the ICA. Very strangely, ICA said that it is okay, doesn't matter, they can do whatever they want, it's not a professional misconduct. So ICA in 1974 gave a ruling that we need not act against this particular person because we don't find any grounds for professional misconduct here. This is the most surprising part. What did P.N.S. Murthy do? He should have probably stayed quiet. He did not stay quiet. He went to Andhra Pradesh High Court. He put a case in Andhra Pradesh High Court. No, in 1975, Andhra Pradesh High Court, article clerk has gone and put a case against the principal. Andhra Pradesh High Court said that you are supposed to teach him accountancy, not agriculture. Therefore, it's a professional misconduct. This happened in 1975. Under what clause? Professional behavior. You are not behaving professionally. As a member, you are not behaving professionally. Of course, professional behavior has been specifically put in the new Code of Conduct, but still acting as a chartered accountant in a professional manner, High Code of Conduct litto. So this is how things can get very, very difficult for us as members here. if you look at the code, there are two, you will find that the code of conduct has got two paragraphs. One is called as R, and one is, before the paragraph number, you have the initial R and you have the initial A. R means that they are imposing obligations. Imposing obligation ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಈ ತರ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಈ ತರ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು. That is what this is imposing an obligation is. The A paragraphs explain or give context, explanation, suggestion for actions or matters to consider. So the paragraphs which are in the with the prefix A, probably you can say that they are explanations to the paragraphs which are mentioned in R. So you will have to look at both the paragraphs here. After the 5 pillars, and this is where I think the new code of conduct is very difficult, very different from what we know as the code of conduct, code of ethics, right? ಅವ್ರು ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಇವಾಗ they are talking at the conceptual framework of the code of ethics is talking about something called as identifying threats. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತು, day in and day out we know that as a professional chartered accountant we are facing a lot of threats. This is not something we should take in a negative manner. It's a part of our business now, right? It's a part of our business. We are facing a lot of threats. The code of ethics has summarized or has identified 5 threats amongst all the threats which members face over so many issues. They've identified 5 threats and found that these 5 threats will overpower any other threats which could be, or whatever threat the members face or professionals face can be categorized into these 5 categories: self-interest threat, self-review threat, advocacy threat, familiarity threat, intimidation threat. Don't worry about what these are, we'll explain what these are. But idan ನೀವು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ, because the framework means what? This is the foundation of all your code of ethics. The word called as threat was never used in the previous code of ethics. We never looked at a code of threat. We never thought of it also as a threat. Threat irbodu anta. All we were looking at was a question of series of do's and don'ts. ಈ ತರ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು, ಈ ತರ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು. Tax audition sign ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು. That's all we knew. ಯಾವ ತರ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು, nobody asked that question, right? So there are these threats now: self-interest threat, self-review threat, advocacy threat, familiarity threat, and intimidation threat. I will come in the reverse order, right? So that you understand why we are talking about this thing, right? Undue influence over the auditor. So we have always known that end of the day we will have to, we work because of the clients. There's no two ways about it. Either lane, there's no muchimar illa there. But we should not work in such a manner that, or we should not get into such a position that the client has got undue influence over the auditor. Andre, whatever he says, we should not, idaralli nimge bekare you can use the word called as control. The client is not controlling the auditor. Anta situation barbardi yavattu. That is called as intimidation threat. Because the moment the word control comes into play, he will start intimidating you. So you take, for example, tax audit itself is a very good example. I told you about GSTR 9C. I believe that most of you will be doing most of tax work and GST work. That's why I'm giving these examples. Tax auditor on clause ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಹಾಕಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. 43B disallowance ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. Or TDS not paid, you may have to disallow it. You may have this so many situations, right? ನೀವು ಹಾಕಬೇಕು ಅಂತಿದ್ದೀರಾ ನೀವು tax audit report ಅಲ್ಲಿ, or in the competition of income. But you're completely influenced by the client because he's paying you very good fees. You don't want to lose the client. You are influenced by him. Anta samayadalli, you will probably say that, okay, I know him. Who's going to know what I told, what he has told me? Nobody will know about it. You agree to what he is saying. Anta situation, intimidation ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. I'll tell you what is to be done, right? The next in reverse order is auditor knows the client too well and the client knows the auditor too well. ಇದು ನಮ್ಗೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತುಂಟಿದೆ. All of us are, facing this day in and day out. More than a client, he's your friend. Anta situationally, what is going to happen? You are going to get into an impression that nothing can go wrong. If something goes wrong, he will tell you. He is going to think that he is my auditor. Nothing can go wrong. If something goes wrong, auditor will tell me. So this also remains a threat, because what will happen in a situation of familiarity is that the client will feel that the auditor knows what I'm doing, and the auditor feels I know what the client is doing or what I'm going to do. In this situation, the threat of familiarity also becomes a very, very important threat. Advocacy threat is promote a client to such an extent that objectivity is compromised. Suppose you become the auditor of, let us say, a Reliance company or Reliance Jio. You don't become so enamored by the fact that you are auditor of Reliance Jio that you forget other things about your professional code of ethics. He may be a very big customer, he may be, a very big client for you, but don't promote the client. That is called as the objectivity threat, which auditor should not be having. Don't promote the client. Remember that you are the client and he is the auditor always. Self-review threat, not evaluating previous judgments made. We know that we have a system of peer review. We are all aware that we are subject to peer review. There is something called as the FRLB, which looks at the financial reporting of practices of clients. All this is already there in the institute in some level, in some form or other. But many a time we don't go back in time and see what has happened in the past. We don't do it because of, again, could be because of other threats also, because of familiarity, intimidation, undue influence, another is what they get. But we never go back in time and, check what we have been doing. So what they are saying here as a threat is that not evaluating previous judgments made. Indian versus the financials, you may not have disallowed a 43B, or you may have taken it as an expenditure because of some reason, because of some case law, or, got some opinion, whatever it may be. Next year, what happens? You forget about it. You don't go back and review those judgments, which you are supposed to do. You have to go back and review why you did that decision. What has changed now? So what they are basically saying is that self-review threat, you review past judgments made, not evaluating. That's a threat, obviously. And the self-interest threat, financial or other interest may inappropriately influence behavior. I can give you an example. Somebody was telling me that, Udupi branch, Pradeep was telling that Corona idrinda tumba jana kelta idare, will the institute give some loan COVID time alli adala helta idare. Let us not worry about the institute for a moment. Let us think that you have a good client, and because of COVID, business is not, very good. I'm not saying business is not good, because everything has been delayed. And business is not good, but everything has been delayed. What was happening in 2 months is now happening in 6 months. So maybe your money will come in only in 6 months' time, or your revenues will come in 6 months' time. So nothing is negative here. There could be a few losses here and there, but we always live in hope. Let us hope that nothing happens, right? So you got a couple of clients who are very, very, good clients, good paying clients, and because of the COVID situation, as you are discussing with the client, he tells you that, and you also ask him, and he also tells you that he decides to help you financially. That doesn't matter now, whether it's giving it to you as a loan or whether it's giving it to you as a, whatever it may, as advance fees, whatever, it doesn't really matter, right? So he has basically helped you out in such a manner that you don't feel the impact of these delayed cash flows because of COVID. You please think of the situation whenever you are going to do some work for the client, even if you do not like it, you will always at the back of your mind think that, okay, this person has given me so much of money, I should probably not be very strict in whatever I'm doing. I'm not saying this is going to come as a negative thing, but this comes consciously. Jesus comes to us unconsciously. So we always keep looking at it and saying that, oh, this person has helped us, so now we'll see what happens, So that is called as a self-interest threat, wherein you are bound because of a financial involvement there. The Code of Ethics has given a very good solution to this. They say that none of these 5 threats, self-interest threat, self-review threat, familiarity, independence, none of this can be removed completely. they can only be minimized, which means to say that we cannot eliminate those threats, but we can only minimize them. They should be at acceptable levels. ಇದರ ಅರ್ಥ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ if you look at it from a more practical example, let us assume that one of those threats is there. Let us assume that a client has actually paid you money in advance for the fees, and it is quite a substantial sum of money. So let us not think about the fact that you have to pay it back to him, whatever it may be, right? So there's a self-interest there because he has paid you fees in advance, or he has given you money in advance. You may not be so bound to him, so strict with him as you are normally, with other people, or you may not ask for the information which you normally ask other people also. ಅವ್ರೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಇವಾಗ, client has given you some information, you have to do the audit as the case may be, right? Because he is giving you the money, or because he's given you the funding, there is a possibility, I'm not saying he's going to do it, but there's a possibility that he may think that ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಕೊಡೋಣ, ಎನಿಹೋ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋ ಎನಿಹೋ ಸೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಗೊತ್ತು ನಮಗೆ, ಪೇಡ್ ದ ಫೀಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಡೋಣ, ಅಥವಾ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಕೊಡದಿದ್ರು ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ವಿ ವಿಲ್ ಇಗ್ನೋರ್ ದ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್. ಅಗೇನ್ ದ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಇಸ್ ದೇರ್ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪೊಸಿಷನ್, ಮೇ ಬಿ that something is not, nothing is wrong with information also, but this is what he is feeling, right? At this point of time, you should remember this slide and say that the threat cannot be eliminated. They should be at acceptable levels. Andre, you would find out that whenever you get into such situations, the only thing I can probably tell all of you all is that please don't, you have a Lakshman Rekha. You will have a Lakshman Rekha ತರ ಇರ್ತಂತು. Don't cross a line, which that line I cannot tell you right now because that depends on the client, depends upon you. ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಇದು. ಒಂದು ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ or one line ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ you should not budge. You can probably give a relaxation in a few cases. Non-documentation, not a problem. Relaxation. New transaction entered into, no documentation given. Don't relax in that because there can be some problem there in that. So in the case of these threats, what you should probably remember very, very importantly is that they should be at acceptable levels. They cannot be eliminated. And you don't even think that I can eliminate it. I've always been saying this and I shall repeat it, right? You take a case of an audit, or even take for anything, you can take a tax audit also, right? As long as the client is paying the fees to us, we cannot be 100% independent. This is a fact that we all have to accept it. I'm not saying this in a negative way, but we should take it in a positive way, right? That as long as the client is paying your fees, I'm not saying we are going to be, under him or be controlled by him. It's a professional relationship. Let's respect that relationship. But the fact remains that 100% independence ನಮಗೆ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಇರಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ when we think of the situation wherein we have to take a very drastic decision, we will have to think very seriously about the fact that what can we do if he does not pay me money? What will happen if I do not get my fees from him? ಏನಾಗತ್ತಾ ಆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ? What can we do for this situation? Can we reduce it? Can we minimize it? So all these, problems will definitely happen because we will not be able to do an elimination. We can only do a minimization. So our Lakshman Rekha Nivo, for any client, you please draw the Lakshman Rekha and keep it. You should know this very, very clearly because, again, in places like Davangere and all of you will be very familiar with each other. Your client knows you very, very well. You know your client very, very well. So the threat of familiarity, all these things will definitely be there. But at all these situations also, or all these clients also, please keep the Lakshman Rekha very, very clear because you should know that you cannot go beyond a particular, limit, right? Or limit particular amount. Considerations for audit are, you should be obviously very acting always independent. This word called as professionalism, skepticism has come into the audit literature now. So it's a tumba interesting word. What it basically says is that ನಿಮಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ರು ಕ್ಲೈಂಟು 25 ವರ್ಷದ ಕ್ಲೈಂಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ಕ್ಲೈಂಟ್, 25 years ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವೇನ್ ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ, ಅವನು ಏನ್ ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. This is a fact. Clean reports, he has told you everything, you have told him everything, right? And it's a win-win situation. There's no question of rotation of auditor here. Adala yoshne madbedi. So 26th year running. The relationship is so strong that if he sends you the trial balance, you can prepare the financial statements and sign the audit report. Ashton the confidence in Ibrugu on each other, right? It's a very healthy relationship to have, no doubt about it. But what the Code of Ethics is saying is that despite all these things, as I said, there may be nothing wrong. It's a very healthy relationship, no problem at all. Despite all these positives, have professional skepticism, which means that what can go wrong? He has got into a new transaction during the year. Is that transaction properly documented? I can give all of you an example also, which will probably, make you understand what I'm trying to say here. ಈ ಕೋವಿಡ್ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ ಇವಾಗ, nobody's been able to go and approach the banks because bank is busy giving moratorium. Nobody's giving loans. They are only in moratorium situation, right? And all this MSME, all these things are coming up. Nobody knows what is actually going to happen. ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು, ಕೊಡಬಾರ್ದು, ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ, nobody, no clarity is there. I am an MSME, urgently need of funds. I need the funds tomorrow morning. Payments is there. Madlebek now. What will I do? I will not wait for this Udyog Vihar, MSME and all these people to come because that will take time. But I require the money urgently. I will go to a related party. I will go to my uncle, nephew, sister-in-law, brother-in-law, brother, sister, whoever it may be, related party. I will tell them that Udyog Vihar na ದುಡ್ಡು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, but it will take about 2-3 months time. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮೀನ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ದುಡ್ಡು ಕೊಡಿ, 10 ಲಕ್ಷ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ ನಿಮಗೆ, ಐ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಟು ಯು. ಟರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ರೆಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಡಿ ನೀವು, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಆಲ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಪಾರ್ಟಿ. Nobody actually pays interest to a related party, but that's okay, that's fine, that's not a problem now, right? But what is important for you to consider is that 25 years this client has not taken related party loan. This time he has he made the necessary disclosures? Are the terms and conditions of the related party transaction not prejudicial to him? Idella barutte nam idralli audit report alli, right? So this is where I think all of you all should be a little bit more careful, and that is why the word called as professional skepticism comes in. We cannot assume that just because he is my client for the last 25 years, even related party transaction, he would have done it perfectly. Adu assumption na madakagala, unfortunately. We will have to go by professional skepticism. We may have to ask him for documentation, we may have to ask him for information, we may have to ask him for agreement, because that is the requirement from the Code of Ethics. Why I am giving this example, you may be wondering what this Wirecard is all about. This is a company which is based in Germany, which was based in Germany. Simple it is the German version of Paytm. In a different way, but almost like Paytm. This is just like a Paytm thing, right? It is basically a payment app. But, with a lot of international connections and all those things. Recently, they have applied for bankruptcy about 1 month back. They're almost going to apply for bankruptcy. Almost already, I think, apply madidare answer. Why I have called it a Satyam 2.0? It was a payment app. This company has said that they have got $1.9 billion in a bank in Singapore. The balance was zero there. They have given their auditors forged or a falsified confirmation of balance, and $1.9 billion illa takshana, the entire company is now under bankruptcy. Very simple problem, but very complicated, subsequent these things. See, previously when Satyam happened, everybody was shocked. Nobody thought of looking at bank confirmation balances so seriously. The bank balance on confirmation now. But this is the third episode after Satyam. There's one more company called as Parmalat in Italy, and this is Wirecard, wherein bank balances itself are being forged. You can imagine now the position of the auditor of this company called as Wirecard. When Satyam happened, we probably thought it is happening for the first time. Bank balance yaar forge madide yaru gottilla namge, but madidare, so we'll be more careful. 2009 Satyam happened. 2020 Wirecard is happening. Exactly same problem. So any regulator, let it be SEBI, let it be the European Commission here, let it be the regulator in Germany, whoever it may be, they're going to ask a simple question. Have you not learned from Satyam episode? To whom? To the auditor. Code of ethics all whatever professional judgment, the previous judgments made, all those things are going to go against auditor. This was not a very complicated fraud. This is nothing to do with revenue recognition. It was a simple question of a bank balance in Singapore of $1.9 billion, which was supposed held there but not held there. Confirmation of balance was obtained, given to the auditor, he accepted it. Now, you argue what can I do to prove that this bank balance was not there, or is it my responsibility to prove that it is not there, or more importantly, I have to believe the documentation. This can be an argument which many audit firms give nowadays. But the regulator has somebody has already questioned this and so told them that it was a very international big firm of auditors. You had an office in Singapore. Nowadays, the email or this postal confirmation of balances does not happen. You should have physically gone to the branch, at least on a test basis. If there are 25 bank accounts, at least for 5 bank accounts or 10 bank accounts, like you do a physical verification of fixed assets, physical verification of inventory, also do a physical verification of bank accounts. You'll also have to do physical verification of bank accounts. So that is the argument which is being made against audit firms. So they're going to definitely be in trouble now, because what is the explanation they can give? They cannot say, I got a forged document. Have you taken the necessary professional skepticism, or have you taken the necessary steps to verify this balance? You forget about the document is forged. That is forged, that's okay, that's given. What have you done from your side? This can come and hit the auditor in a very negative way. This is what I think is a very important part of the thing. We have to understand this. So as I said, I'll only be talking about the accountants in practice, not about those in service here. This is the schedule 1, which lists out the various things which an auditor cannot do. Otherly, you can find various situations. Practice by a non-chartered accountant, sharing fees with the non-member, accepting fees from the non-member, secures professional business through non-employee, non-partner, unlawful means. Many of these things have been repeated from the previous code of ethics. So, as I said, this is almost like 37 plus 20, 57 years in developing it, right? Solicits professional work. Now, of course, all this has changed. There are limitations on what we can solicit and what we cannot do. Advertises professional attainment, fails to come into the outgoing auditor. Non-compliance 130 and 140 of the Companies Act, auditing, which is talking about following all the auditing standards. Charging fees based on percentage of contingency. So please don't think that you cannot charge fees based on percentage of contingency. You are permitted to charge on contingency only in a few situations which we look at. Engages in any other occupation, allows non-member or non-partner to sign documents on behalf of the firm. So these are what are called the Schedule 1 problems of of the Code of Ethics, wherein these are acts which a chartered accountant is not supposed to do, subject to those limitations there. It's a very interesting case. It may be very interesting for all the people practicing in Davangere. This is called as a professional misconduct book written by one Praveen Chandra C. Parekh. Book is Tax Planning for Black Money, bracket secret income. You can see here that why I have put this up here is because you can see that I think this is in the online university library. You can see that they have put it as available, request to pick up or digitization, which means you can get a PDF version of this book if you want. This book is available. The book again, I thought this came under the Professional Misconduct Committee, definitely, because they said that how can you do this, such a book like this? tax planning for black money, and other, of course, don't you can download it if you want. I'm not sure really how this is going to help all of us, but you can see why this becomes important, right? See, why this becomes important is because these are all actions which the institute has come to know based on some complaints which have been given by some people who have been linked to the profession. I will, though I have not given this specifically in the presentation, I can give you all one more example. The hub of this conversion of these 2000 rupee notes seem to be Calcutta. Demonetization ಆದ ತಕ್ಷಣ, the entire hub of all this, changes, or how to convert the money, appeared to be in Calcutta. There was one chartered accountant in Calcutta who sent out an actual WhatsApp message to other people and told that, ನಿಮಗೇನಾದರೂ ಸಹಾಯ ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಕನ್ವರ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ಮೀ, ನಾನು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ ನಿಮಗೆ. ಆಕ್ಚುಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಹಾಕ್ತಾನೆ ವಾಟ್ಸ್ಆಪ್ ಮೆಸೇಜ್. That of course went to the institute and they have held him guilty of professional misconduct. So you can see why it is important, because in the present day and age, information travels very fast. We've got social, ಮುಂಚೆ ತರ ಇತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. In fact, this is not a new book. This was written in 1970 itself by one person called as Mr. Patel. Same book, same type of book, same Gujarat, same. But he was, at that time social media was not so important and he did not have online versions, PDF version. It was a physical book. Ittechige it has become a little bit more common because we have got, social media to help us in this. The example thodide. Chartered accountant wrote several letters to the Assistant Registrar of Cooperative Societies, Government of West Bengal, stating that though his firm was in the panel of auditors and no audit work was allotted to the firm, he was held guilty of professional. ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಇವರು ಚಾರ್ಟರ್ಡ್ ಅಕೌಂಟೆಂಟ್, ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಟಿ ಸಿ ಪಾಲ್, ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರು. ಕೋಆಪರೇಟಿವ್ ಸೊಸೈಟಿ ಆಡಿಟರ್ಸ್ ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರು. ಅವರು ಅಲಾಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ ನಿಮ್ಗೆಲ್ಲ. ಮೆನಿ ಆಫ್ ಯು ದಾವಣಗೆರೆ ಮೇ ಬಿ ಫೇಸಿಂಗ್ ದಿಸ್ ಕೋಆಪರೇಟಿವ್ ಸೊಸೈಟಿ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಆಫ್ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಬ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಆಡಿಟರ್ಸ್, ರೈಟ್? ಇದು ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ. He did not get any audit. He wrote several letters to them saying that I am on the panel, why am I not getting audit? And look into the matter. ಅದು ಹೋಯ್ತು ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಟ್ಗೆ, BC committee says it is a professional misconduct. Your job is to ensure that your name comes in the empanelment. You cannot make roving inquiries. ಮತ್ತೆ ನೀವು ಕೇಳಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. I do not know in the present day and age with social media and WhatsApp and all whether this decision would still hold good, but there in those olden days, again, we're talking about 1966 here, make roving inquiries. You can make an inquiry probably, not make a roving inquiry, right? ಇದು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ ನೋಡಿ, ಇದು ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ ಇದು. So you can see that this is a chartered accountant who was advertised in Hindustan Times, right? Experienced chartered accountant having a posh office with telecom, telephone, computer, telex, car, qualified staff available for taxation, company law, and institutions, contact phone number, all these things he has given. Held that he was guilty of professional misconduct. So andre ಏನೇನು ಹಾಕಿದ್ದಾರೆ ನೋಡಿ ಅವರು, ರಾಜೀವ್ ಶರ್ಮಾ ಅವರು. Posh office. I do not know whether the client is looking at the chartered accountant's capability to do the work or the posh office. Telephone or computer or telex, car. I do not know why he mentioned car also, but he thought it fit to mention car also. Suppose urgent department probably he's got a car, right? This I did not even explain to all of you. This cannot be done. There is no doubt about it. Then ಮಾಡಲೇಬಾರದು ನಾವು ಇದನ್ನು, because this is not possible at all. How can you are not actually doing a salesman job here, right? So it is very clear that this happened in 1966, of course, but I'm just putting you in a frame of mind wherein all of you understand what is happening here. As far as that was the first schedule. As far as the second schedule is concerned, these are what we are going to face in the second schedule now. We have got discloses information acquired without the client's consent, certifies or submits a report without examining the related records, permits the use and name for vouching accuracy of future contingent earnings, opines on financial statements where substantial interest is involved, fails to disclose any material fact in a financial statement. All these you can see yourself. Keeps clients' money without opening a separate bank account, right? So all these are examples of professional misconduct, which could be in the second schedule. Second schedule also is very important because we will all be in a situation wherein at some point of time we may also have to look at the second schedule, because all of us have probably sort of got into a situation of wherein we have got this. I'll again go by I'll come from the last thing. Keeping clients' money without opening separate bank account. This is something which all of us have done. I'm not saying we have not done it with the intention to misuse the money, but what we call as temporary use of funds. Client has given money to make the GST payments. Because of COVID, the GST delay out. Money is there with you. Other clients are not paying you. This person has already paid you. In your mind, you are thinking that anyhow it is delayed. I don't have to make the payment right now. I will have to make payment only in the month of September, especially if there's a 2A versus 3B. I anyhow should do in August only. Parvagilla, astrally bereno dudbarbodu. I will use this money for some other purpose. You go and buy a site in Davangere because site prices are low now with this money. The Code of Ethics says that all clients' money keep in a separate bank account. If you are able to recover this money from other clients and pay back the client and pay back his GST amount, there is absolutely no problem of any situation, any issue at all, right? But the Code of Ethics teaches us to minimize this problem. That's what they are saying is, please keep all the clients' monies in a separate bank account. Don't even think of doing this transaction. You put it in a separate bank account, and when that bank account is going to be utilized for the purpose of the GST payment, make it from that bank account. Don't involve this mixing business. This is what they're trying to say, right? But on a practical note, we sometimes would, that's why I said Lakshman Rekha, right? How much do you want to cross this? Okay, 5 lakhs of rupees I have to pay. I've got sources. Even if I have to a situation where I have to pay, I've got enough and more money to pay. This is a one sort of way of looking at it. 15 lakhs of rupees, slightly riskier. You may not be able to do it. You may not be able to recover the 15 lakhs from some other person. Therefore, riskier. Don't do that. So this is what you should think of when you look at the risk factor and trying to minimize the threat involved. The other things are all something which we have, quite familiar with. I'll just talk about the second part of it, clause 2. Certificates or submits a report without examining the related records. Many a time, because after UDIN has come in, this has been, you can look at it both ways. You can look at it both as a blessing as well as a curse. You can look at it from both points of view. Last 3-4 days, last 3-4 days, I've been getting an SMS saying that your UDIN has been searched by Vijay. Now, I don't know who Vijay is. But I went back and looked at the UDIN. It was given for some certification for some stock turnover or whatever it may be, right? I have taken all the necessary records, all the necessary precautions. So there's no risk as far as that is concerned. But you can just imagine a situation wherein I have just given that certificate without looking at the relevant records, and whoever this person Vijay is has seen the certificate, asks me for information. Inta samayadalli, we are going to have a slight issue in terms of probably trying to defend why we have given the certificate. So again, as all of you will probably be aware, there is an essay called as standard of auditing called as Essay 230, which talks about documentation. I think for whatever work we are doing, we will have to follow Essay 230. Don't give a certificate or don't put your UDIN, or even before you put your UDIN, you please take a document and ensure that the certificate is justified. Because the second clause says that certificates or submits a report without examining the related records. That could be a professional misconduct by itself, right? I will give all of you all this example also. It's a very interesting example for a professional misconduct. This is a person called as Trideep Raj Bhandari versus ICI. Mate tumba interesting case idu. Now, Trideep Raj Bhandari is not a chartered accountant. He's not a chartered accountant. He had shares in a company called as First Leasing. He had shares in a company called as First Leasing. That company was closed down much some time back because of some issues with accounting and all those things. It was a different version of ILFS. First Leasing was a different version of ILFS. Bandari ಅವರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು? He had shares in that company. And because of the RBI also revealed that the RBI investigation was made. Our investigation and RBI very clearly mentioned that First Leasing was falsifying the books of account, which means that your books of account were wrong. Bhandari lost a lot of money in this. Obviously, lost a lot of money in this. He was wondering what is to be done. So he thought that one the ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ನಾವು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ we will file a case against the auditors. Because of them, we have lost money. He did not act professionally. So he put a case in Delhi High Court saying that against both the internal auditors as well as the statutory auditors, saying that because of you I have lost so much of money, so it's a professional misconduct. You will have to compensate me for the losses, incurred compensatory damages. So adala bantu Delhi High Court. This happened about 15-20 years back, right? Delhi High Court luckily said that the chartered accountant is not, both the internal auditors and the statutory auditors are not guilty of professional misconduct. I'm saying luckily because in the present situation, again, present day and age, this decision may not probably come out the way it came out from for the auditors here, or against Mr. Bhandari in favor of the auditors here. Present day and age may be very different. Maybe the court may say that you were guilty because we did not see it, properly. Tumba examples bರ್ತದೆ. I give the example of Wirecard. We saw ILFS in India. There's a company called Skerilion in UK. All these companies are situations wherein auditor has actually been questioned by the regulators, saying that what were you doing as an auditor? He is not saying that, please remember here, they are not saying that you should have identified the fraud. Or fraud ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅವರು. They are saying that your audit report and financial statements do not contain any warning sign that this company may probably not exist, or there can be a potential risk in these areas. In audit report alli financial statement yellow, there is absolutely no mention. This we should take it in a positive way, because in the present audit report format, SA 700, there is a lot of scope for the auditor to mention what he wants to mention. We have got a qualification clause, we have got a qualification paragraph, we've got an emphasis of matter paragraph, we've got other matter paragraph, we've got key audit matter paragraph. So if you want to draw attention in your revised SA 700, there is enough and more space for you to mention what you want to mention. ಇದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ನಾವು we cannot expect a audit report to be sort of in a different format, or given in a different manner. Okay, so the point here is that draw attention of the management, more than the management, draw the attention of the shareholder to the fact that something of this sort is possibly going to happen in the particular company, right? So this is also a very important part of the professional misconduct. ಇದು ನಮಗೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋದುಂಟು. ಇಂಟಿಮಿಡೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಒಂದೇ ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ, ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಗೆಟಿಂಗ್ ಅ ಲಿಟಲ್ ಬಿಟ್ ಡಾರ್ಕ್ ಹಿಯರ್. ಒಂದೇ ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ, ಐ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಪುಟ್ ಲೈಟ್ ಇನ್ ಕಮ್, ಜಸ್ಟ್ 1 minute. Yeah. So now it's better, I think. Yeah. So intimidation, I think I'll switch out the backlight. 1 minute. Sorry. So intimidation threat, we have seen that already. I explained, but I'm not going to explain this again because the only problem in intimidation threat is what? Again, as I said, what we can possibly, how far we can possibly go. You look at the last paragraph here. A professional accountant having accepted a significant gift from a client and being threatened that acceptance of this gift will be made public. I'll take you back again to ILFS. It's not a question of gift there, but ILFS the not chartered accountant, but the rating agencies. The rating agency means, I think it was CARE Ratings or India Ratings. Very obvious situation which happened was they have found a lot of email exchanges in which they have said that the rating agency has asked ILFS to book the tickets for their football matches in Europe, Champions League matches. So it is very obvious that, all this has come out now in public here. So how independent can that rating agency be when you have got a specific request for this and you have also adhered to that request? So the question also comes up there. So all these things are, very, very, important. But as I said, in the in the audit report, tax audit report, wherever you have a space there, we have got enough and more opportunities, enough and more spaces, enough and more, clauses wherein we can put in what we want to say. So Munchetara, we were not bound by only some format sort of situation here. You will have to probably inform the client also about this and also bring it out in your audit report. I can give you the example of AirAsia, for example, which probably makes, will be relevant to all of you all. In the month of February 2020, as recently as Feb 2020, AirAsia was supposed to be one of the best airlines in Southeast Asia because many of you will travel by AirAsia. Low cost, no frills aircraft, not a problem, low prices. It was supposed to be one of the best, and they were covering almost all the important places in India. COVID banto, passengers stopped traveling, lockdown happened, aircraft shut down, lease rent is not paid. 30th June, the auditor has given a qualification audit report saying that AirAsia may not exist as a going concern. Within a space of 3 months, you can see how much has changed here, right? So maybe the AirAsia person could have been intimidating and then telling him that no, you don't qualify the audit report. It's possible that these things should have happened now, right? So that's why I said it's important for us to know exactly what judgment the client has been making, right? Okay, now the other part of this is that taking safeguards. ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ನೀವು ಇದಕ್ಕೆ? ಥ್ರೆಟ್ ಇದ್ದೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಎಲ್ಲೂ ಏನು ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಥ್ರೆಟ್ಗೆ. One of the things which will probably be important for us to do and which the Code of Ethics also seems to be agreeing on is that assigning additional time and qualified personnel to required tasks when an engagement has been accepted might address a self-interest threat. Self-interest threat in ಮುಂಚೆ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ review is not being done. Previous judgment is not being reviewed. That was a self-interest threat in the previous slide. Now they are saying that you may not be able to do it yourself. Can you get somebody else to do it? It's something like, if you want me to put it in a different way, it's like a self-peer review, voluntarily peer review, right? This is what you have done for a client in Davangere. And you know that correct is my judgment correct? Is my documentation correct? Is what I have done, is it correct as per normal norms? Once it is just getting a second person to check and review these things, right? So the entire Code of Ethics is going to only use this word called as taking safeguards. They are only asking us to take the safeguards. They are saying all these threats are going to be there. They're not going to disappear. You will have to take necessary safeguards to ensure that the Code of Ethics is not violated here, right? Conflict of interest is a very important thing also, because again, this can appear to be a problem in certain small places wherein you are known to both parties in a transaction. You are the auditor and you know both the parties, and they have approached you commonly. They've approached you commonly, or they've approached you together, or they've approached you So it is possible that one person is having a conflict of interest over you because, or you got a conflict of interest because one person has got more of an influence over than the other person. Anta situation irabodi ivaga. So basically, when you have got a conflict of interest, Code of Ethics says that please inform that you have got a conflict of interest. And of course, valuation will be a good example for this, but let us say that you have done the valuation examination, RVA examination, you have passed the RVA examination also, and you are a professional valuer practicing in Davangere. One valuation of one company's share price comes because of buyer and seller are both in Davangere only. There is a hotel in Davangere which wants to be sold. Don't worry, it is not the Benedes hotel that will remain, but any other hotel, right? Which is going to be sold, and you know about the buyer and the seller. Ibru gottu nimge. You want to do a valuation. They come to you. Both the buyer and seller come to you because you are the only person who has qualified the RVA examination in the whole of Davangere. They both come to you. They don't have a choice. They both come to you. And obviously, the seller wants a higher share price. The buyer wants a lower share price. Ideally, ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ನೀವು average ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಒಂದು valuation report ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು ನೀವು. Ideally, that would be the best thing to do. But it is possible that you are doing an average because of a conflict of interest. So what the Code of Ethics expects you to do here is that either you do an absolutely impartial valuation, which is very, very difficult, or you tell them that I know both of you well, please get the valuation done from somebody outside in Bangalore or any other place, not in Davangere, because it's a very obvious conflict of interest for me. The fact that I know both of you may actually sort of vitiate the valuation or be a negative factor in the valuation. And you'll have to go and tell them very, very clearly. That's what the Code of Ethics expects us to say there, right? Prepare valuation of assets of two parties who are in adversarial position with respect to the assets. Andre ibru buyer and seller gottiraru nimge, right? Two clients in the same manner who are in a legal dispute with each other. Of course, let's not worry about diverse proceedings, but partnership dissolution. How are the shares going to be split? Maybe again, both have been your clients, right? In their individual capacity. And that also can create a small problem in terms of, advising a client to invest in a business in which, for example, the spouse of the professional accountant has a financial interest. But then this can be a conflict of interest. Your wife is having a startup company in Davangere, doing very, very well, right? Looking for further funds, right? And they're growing very, very well, and they're looking for further funds all the time. You have a client who is interested to invest in startup companies. I'll put it that way. Who is interested to invest in startup companies. Now, suddenly one day you get a flash of an idea. Okay, I've got client here, I've got wife here. Both are having a requirement for each other in terms of one person wants to fund, one person needs the funds. It is possible you may match them up. You can tie them up and say that, okay, this is what it is. But again, the Code of Ethics is saying that don't advise the client. You can tell the client that my wife is having a startup company. She is doing okay. I'm not very sure how she is doing. You please look at the financial statements, right? You look at what they are doing. If you are satisfied, you please go ahead. Don't use the word invest in the conversation at all. If you are interested, you please go ahead. You please do this independently. Don't involve me, because the way you will avoid the conflict of interest is by telling him that please don't involve my name in this entire thing, right? You do it so again, the question of independence comes in here. This independence becomes a very important word in this entire thing here. Idu, of course, namgeಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋದು accepting the engagements. Previous auditor jate, please communicate to him. We do this on a regular basis. We keep saying that we have been appointed the auditor of this particular company. We believe you are the auditor. In case you have got any reasons for me not to take up the audit, please inform me. In case we don't hear from you within a period of 15 days, we shall assume that you have no objection to my taking the audit. This is what the standard format of the letter is given. But now normally what we will do is we will send this letter. We will wait for 15 days. Uttara bandila andre we will say, I don't think he's going to be, he's going to reply. You will take the assignment because that's what is mentioned in your letter also, right? I would suggest to all of you that considering all this new code of ethics, consider matter on the 15th day, when you are taking the decision that he is okay with it, please give him one phone call. Make one phone call to him because he may have forgotten to send the letter. He may have not sent the letter because of some internal problem in communication, whatever it may be, right? One Satin, you just call him up and tell him that I have sent this letter. Have you received it? Do you have any objection? Why this is important? Again, you will find out that the risk factor is much, much more lesser in this. If he calls up and tells you that, or if you call him and he tells you that there is no risk at all, that sense of comfort is there. Or if he calls you and says that there are 3 or 4 areas which are very critical, please look at those areas. Again, a sense of comfort develops for you, right? So please ensure that it is not only a written communication. At some point of time, maybe also you should have a word with him and tell him that this thing here, right? One thing which all of us will definitely face is that, can I give a write-up of servicing, of informing services provided? Tumba platforms, for example, Urban Clap came up as an option here. Of course, in a recent decision, the council has said that you cannot advertise at all on Urban Clap. But say, for example, you have got your the most popular thing is Yellow Pages, right? And you've got so many online platforms wherein you have got a space for a chartered accountant to put in his professional achievements or information. Let us say service providers. Is there in your GST portal also, right? GST practitioner. You can give a write-up. But the code of ethics is very, very clear, saying that please don't mention the fees. I have seen this very repeatedly. In many of the cases, what has happened in the code of ethics, you can definitely tell them, no problem at all. But it appears that the question of code of ethics becomes important. The question of professional misconduct comes into play only when you are mentioning your fees. There appears to be a feeling. I mean, I do not know how far this can be justified or not justified, either case, but there appears to be a feeling that by mentioning the fees, I'm undervaluing the profession itself, right? This is a matter which is private between the client and the auditor. Why should you mention this outside in a public platform is what appears to be the problem. But in many cases, it is possible that, just to get the client, we're trying to tell the fees and all those things. But that is a definite no. Fees matra, keep it as a private between the client and the auditor, right? On the question of fees, the Code of Ethics has got a very nice content here. Normally, we will always be facing the situation. We have, I think, I hope there are a few members who are, practicing or commence practice newly now. Last time, Shomaga branch Madaga member new member, sir, hosta practice, what should I do? I don't worry about Code of Ethics. First job is to get a client. Get clients. I'm not saying you do not have clients, get clients, right? You get a client and it is possible that I may quote a fee only for the purpose of getting the client. Small example, you are practicing newly in Davangere. You got 60 chartered accountants there, according to the chairman. Let us say 65 chartered accountants are practicing there. You got a client, or I won't say client, you got a request from a client for a GST registration certificate. Or to do a GST registration. Registration, but why registration? Let us say 9C only. Let us say GST 9C for 31st March 2019. Now, if you look at the general mahol about this GST or 9C, it is around 40,000 rupees. ICN or health, But we are doing it at some 25,000 rupees, 20,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees, whatever it may be. Some fees we are quoting. I'm not getting into how much you should charge. You are fresh, you are new, practicing in Davangere, and you got a opportunity or got a request from the client, which is that famous Benedose Hotel, to do a 9C for them. In your mind, you must be thinking that I will quote a very low fee because I will get the assignment definitely. The interesting part of the code of ethics, they've tuned this, they made this paragraph very, very well, right? They've said that you can quote whatever you feel is appropriate. However, quoting a fee lower than any other accountant is not unethical. The level of fees quoted creates a self-interest threat to comply with the principle of professional competence and due care. If the fee quoted is so low that it may be difficult to perform the engagement in accordance with applicable technical and professional standards. So the same Davangere, this Benedose Hotel 9C, let us say, general trend in Davangere is, let us say, 15,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees. I'm not judging the amount here. Let's say 20, 25,000 rupees, right? As I said, you are new. You want that assignment. At any point, any cost, you may want to quote, let us say, 5,000 rupees. And say that if I quote 5,000 rupees for 9C, one, he'll definitely give it to me. He's going to become my client. And second is that I will be able to retain him for a longer period of time. The code of ethics saying that no problem, 5,000 rupees you can quote, not an issue at all. However, do you feel that at 5,000 rupees, you will be able to do the entire 9C accordance with the professional and technical standards? Andre, can you fill in all the columns? Or will you do a proper audit? Which is what is, though they call it as a reconciliation, will you be able to do a proper audit? Right? So these factors you should consider in account. It may be that 5,000 rupees is too less. Again, I'm not saying that this is less or no, but I'm just saying that, this is possibility. So what they're saying is that, again, goes back to the Lakshman Rekha rule for me, right? Don't quote a fee just to get the client. Again, this is a general advice I give all the chartered accountants, but again, I'll tell this to people in Davangere also, that Yavde assignment really, it doesn't matter what the nature of the assignment is, right? There is a certain fee which is basic minimum below which you will not go. Doesn't matter what the work is. You know the client well, you know the assignment, you know the work well. Antadrally, for those works only, I'm saying that there is a certain fee below which you should not go at all. If the client comes in below that fee, please tell him, thank you very much, I don't want the assignment because this is what I have developed as my benchmark. You may lose the client, but you gained a lot of merit in the code of ethics because you've not gone below a point wherein you will not be able to do the assignment in accordance with whatever the laws are required. I mean, we're not even comparing the other chartered accountants what they're accounting. That's not the point at all here. But we know that the general fees which is being quoted is this much here. So, Khanditavagli, you can quote on the basis of a lower quote, but please keep this in the back of your mind. Having quoted so low, can I do justice for the job? Ido tumba important. If the answer is no, please don't take it. So keep one more number in your mind, which is that how much is the minimum below which I'll not go for this particular assignment. That's a very important part of the code of ethics here. Right? Of course, they give you safeguards and say that, have an appropriate review to review the work performed. You have a third party to, look at the level of fees. Now, many a time we also felt that contingent fees cannot be charged. The contingent is, if you get a loan from the bank on the basis of a project report, you pay me 10% of the loan sanctioned amount. This is a typical contingent fees relationship. For preparation of project report, you give me X amount of money. It's more properly called a success fee. Project report you give me about 25,000 rupees or 50,000 rupees or 1 lakh of rupees, as the case may be, right? This is my fees for the project report. Over and above this, if the loan is disbursed to you, 10% of loan disbursal amount, you'll have to pay me. Now, it was generally felt in the previous code of ethics that chartered accountant cannot charge a success fee. The new code of ethics talks about the fact that you can charge a success fee in specific instances, which is, for example, liquidation, number of assets, total value of assets is, disbursed, right? Cooperative society auditor, or fixed model fees based on working capital, right? So it's permitted again there. In the case you're doing a valuation for the purpose of direct taxes and duties, total value of the property, right? Consulting services for, management consulting services, council has already given a decision on this. Fundraising services, percentage of fundraising and bank loan I told you about, right? Debt recovery services, total debt recovered. Cost optimization, benefit rate from cost optimization. So all these things are areas wherein we can, for example, now the institute has given a permission, the ICA has given a permission saying that IBC code, payment of success fee. Rendering non-assurance services to non-audit clients. This can also be on the basis of percentage of this thing. So you can charge a percentage of this basically, right? So idರಲ್ಲಿ I'll give an example for all of you, right? But this the last important ಮಾತ್ರ ತುಂಬಾ important. It should be non-audit client. ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ ನೀವು GST ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ ನೀವು I know all of you are successful in doing GST, but ITC, you go and tell a client that, and this is actually a good practice area, you go and tell a client that I will do an entire analysis of your ITC, including 2A reconciliation, how much of money you can save by claiming what you are not claiming, or not claiming what you should claim. I will obviously save you interest and penalty and all those things also. You do an exercise for that client, for your client. This can be a very good practice area, incidentally. You spend 1 month of time on this assignment. Audit manager, I mean, 2 people, 2 article, so we were doing this. You charge for the assignment, let us say 1 lakh of rupees for giving the report. And on the basis of the total ITC saved in that company, you charge 10%, 15%, 20%. This is permitted. Only thing which is not permitted is you can't do it to an audit client. You can do this consultancy business, you can do this, percentage basis only for a non-audit client, not for an audit client. That is a specific requirement in the code of conduct. Matte idu referral fees, right? We can do a referral fee also, right? Let us say that I have got a friend of mine in Davangere who wants some work to be done. I cannot come to Davangere and I don't want to do it from Bangalore also. So I can refer one of you. I can refer Mr. Virendra Kumar and tell him that, I can tell Mr. Virendra Kumar is there. He's a good friend of mine. He will do the work on my behalf. You can directly contact him, not on my behalf. He'll do the work. You can directly contact him and do it. For having referred the client to Mr. Virendra Kumar, I can take fees from him. It is permitted. ಮುಂಚೆ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಇದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ, ಇವಾಗ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವರು. So I can tell Mr. Virendra Kumar that this is going to be your fees. You can quote this much of fees, whatever it may be. For that, you please give me a certain referral fees. Idu also permitted by the code of conduct. Again, you can see that they have opened up the code of conduct quite a bit. They have opened this up quite a bit in the sense that they are permitting us to do all these things which were probably not thought of or specifically banned before, right? But the next part of it is how do you safeguard these referral fees? Disclose to the clients any referral fees paid. This also is a very important part. I already told you about the fact about what happened in ILFS. Tumba sati ಈ ತರ ನಮಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಟೈಮ್ಸ್ ನಮಗೆ ಈ ತರ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್ ಬರ್ಬೋದು, in the sense that we may get situations wherein clients offer us gifts, hospitality, entertainment, charitable contributions, employment, ಆಗತ್ತೆ, because this is all appeals to friendship and loyalty ಅಂತನೂ ಹಾಕಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವರು, whatever that means. So typically what will happen is that you will observe that gifts, hospitality, entertainment, political or charitable contributions, all these things are known to us, right? But I mean, I'll use the word hospitality in particular because this comes as a very good, example to my mind, right? Let us say that you are auditor for the Taj Group of Hotels. You are auditor for the Taj Group of Hotels, and you know, ಯಾಕೆ ಆಡಿಟ್ ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ನಾವು ಜಿ ಎಸ್ ಟಿನೇ ಹೇಳೋಣ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ತುಂಬ ಜಿ ಎಸ್ ಟಿನೇ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಜಿ ಎಸ್ ಟಿ ಫುಲ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಆಲ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ತಾಜ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಹೋಟೆಲ್ಸ್ಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಜಿ ಎಸ್ ಟಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಎಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಟೇಟಲ್ಲೂ ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಇದೆ. ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಡೂ 9C. ದೇ ಕಮ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಗಿವ್ ಇಟ್ ಟು ಯು. And it a little bit involves traveling also. You have to go to all these individual, places also. So what they are saying is that you don't have to worry about stay cost. You stay in our hotel only. Because anyhow you're doing the GST or 9C, you stay in our hotel only, not a problem. And you take care of whatever is to be done. Our accounts officer will take you to the place and show the office there. You do the 9C. Hospitality provided by the Taj Group. Now, I'm not saying this that you will definitely fall for this inducement, right? But if you are truly independent, what the ICA expects you to do is that don't stay in the hotel. First option, don't stay in the hotel. To tell him that, because I don't want to stay in the Taj Group. But in case that is not possible, because we'll also have to think of practicality, convenience. It's very convenient to be there. Not all the time I can, stay outside. Adrallu Saha, they're given a very beautiful solution. They are saying that you just see the part of the last part of this, reimbursing the cost of the inducement. They put it very beautifully in the Code of Ethics. They're saying that, okay, I will stay in your hotel. No problem. Thank you very much for the hospitality, but I will pay for it. Whatever is your charges for that particular place, I shall ensure that I pay for it. Or, in case it's a gift, they are saying that return the gift or give the gift to a charity. All these possibilities. So this Code of Ethics or the revised Code of Ethics has been drafted in such a manner that I told you about the fact that there were going to be threats. Ella threat barta ide namge. It is coming and going on a regular day in and day out basis. This Code of Ethics has done a very nice job in trying to give us ways in which we can minimize the threat. ಇದು ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಯೋಚನೆ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಕ್ಲೈಂಟ್ ನಮಗೆ ಗಿಫ್ಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಆ ಗಿಫ್ಟ್ ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ರಿಯಂಬರ್ಸ್ ದ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದಟ್ ಗಿಫ್ಟ್ ಆರ್ ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ donate that gift to charity. Many times we do this as a general measure, but specific thing, because what the Code of Ethics is feeling is that at least I will not be living with that guilt complex, saying that nan tagonde, therefore I'm going to be bound to him, right? Anta prashna barala. So you look at the intention, it is very clear that they wanted to be completely independent to the extent possible. As I said earlier also, 100% independence sigodu tumba kashta, but to the extent possible you be independent. Don't get into the situation of taking a gift from him, staying at hospitality, or IPL tickets. Don't. If you get the IPL tickets online, you go for the match. Just don't go for the match, or get the tickets and pay him back for it. That also is a possibility. That portion they've handled it quite clearly in the Code of Conduct. Of course, as far as GST is concerned, internal auditor cannot do GST audit. I do not know why this is there, but it is there, so we'll have to live with it. They are saying that enrolling as a GST tax practitioner can be permitted. GST training through seminars can be given only to existing clients. I will not take this too seriously because I do not know how this is going to be, actually implemented. Cannot use the designation GST consultant. Once you have got a chartered accountant qualification, I do not think it's necessary for you to also, so I am quite sure that, use the word called as GST consultants. I am quite sure that all these things will change over time, because if the client or the prospective client is supposed to know that you are doing GST work, it also becomes important to understand what GST work you are doing. It could be general consultancy, may not be compliance. And the situation, ನಾವು ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಕನ್ಸಲ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಇದನ್ನು ನೋಡಿರ್ಬೋದು ಪೇಪರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ 1300 exporters go missing after taking GST credits wrongfully. Daily ಇಂಥ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ ನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. Exporters have gone missing, ITC wrongly taken, huge amount of ITC taken, people have been arrested. Nowadays, unfortunately, what is happening in GST is this is the only sort of news we are getting. We are not getting any positive news. Why I put this up in front of all of you was that the exporter has gone missing. On sigala matte on guarantee sigala on. But just look at that person or the poor person who or the auditor or the consultant who has signed the GSTR 9C for 31st March 18. He is definitely going to be asked a lot of questions. I'm not saying that about the tracing part and all those things, right? I'm not talking about not about the where has he gone on the question. I'm talking about the fact that was that claim for refund even in 2018 itself genuine? So as we have seen, this problem can extend to other people also. So therefore, the code of ethics becomes more and more important on a regular basis. There are a couple of other decisions of the ESB which I'll talk about before we, wind up, and we'll take a few questions. Internal auditor cannot buy shares; they can buy shares in the company. So this restriction only appears to be for the statutory auditor, not to buy shares. WhatsApp cannot be used to create awareness about your practice. And the credit card of the bank in which I'm the auditor can be held provided the outstanding balance in the card does not exceed 10,000 rupees beyond the prescribed grant. So this 10,000 rupees is not the limit; it's beyond the limit. So if your credit limit is, let us say, 2 lakhs of rupees, you cannot go beyond 2 lakh or 2,10,000 rupees. Again, that appears to be the general trend that you cannot become too indebted in all those things. Okay, there are a couple of other things on non-compliance which we know that since we have already spoken about the the threats which have been coming in. So our threats and minimize model, that becomes a very important part of it. The last part of the code of ethics, which is again very, very important, but you will have to look at ways to solve this problem, is also going to be that the code of ethics ideally feels that an accountant or a chartered accountant should not be over dependent upon a particular client, and their definition of over dependence is that the total annual professional fees more than 15% is coming from one single particular client or a group of clients. It can be either of these two things, one client or a group of clients. This can be a dangerous clause because especially in some places where you've got very limited number of people who are there, both practitioners as well as businesses. It will definitely cross 15%, right? So please remember, this is only a caution. This is only a threat. ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ 15% ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ? It's obvious that I'm depending on him for my existence itself. Therefore, I may choose to not follow many of the other parts of the code of ethics. Here also they've been very, very clear, right? As a solution, they are saying that disclose to those who are charged with governance that more than 15, you go and tell the person that I'm depending on you for more than 15%. This is a part of the new code of ethics. I'm disclosing this to you in the best interest of disclosure. More importantly, you get one outside person to perform a review of the work done for that particular client. Please remember here that the code of ethics at no point in time is saying that give up the client or reduce it below 15%. And all they are saying is that you go and tell the client that my total fees, more than 15% is coming from you. There is a specific clause in the code of conduct. So what I'm going to do is that, one is I'm disclosing this information to you. Second is that I'm going to get somebody from some other firm to review the work I have done for you so that he gives me the confidence that I have done the work in accordance with all the professional standards. So they've given the threat, given the solution also to that, saying that this is what you have to do. Again, this becomes a very important part of the code of conduct. Okay. Otherly, I think I have completed with that my presentation here. Thank you very much. Another question is there. We'll definitely take a few questions. Otherwise, I will ask Virendra Kumar sir to take over the proceedings here. Thank you very much for this opportunity. The presentation already over the branch at Raidadana, so I've already sent it to them. So we can probably take it from them and go through it at leisure. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. I think there are 4 questions. Answer Martin Adana. Sir, ready, sir?
We request the participants are having any questions may ask the speaker to clarify their doubts. The PPT which the speaker has sent will be shared among the participants shortly.
ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವ್ದು ಹಾಕಿಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ.
I think participants are not having any doubts in your speech, sir. We are extremely thankful for your extreme support given to our Davangere CP chapter, and also your valued time you have spared with us and enlightened on the subject matter, which was very dry subject, and we got knowledge from your presentation. Thank you very much on behalf of Davangere CP chapter. Thank you.
ಸರ್ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಒಂದು ಚಾಟ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ ಅಂತೆ.
Yes, sir.
ರಿಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಲ ಅದನ್ನ?
ಮಾಡಿ sir, ಮಾಡಿ.
Can you brief the significance? BG Wadayar ಅವರು ಕೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. Can you brief the significance of working papers while defending the disciplinary cases? Okay. Sir, ಒಂದು ಮಾತ್ರ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು. Working paper is very, very important. No, it's not. It's very, very important. See, the problem is not in the working paper. ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ನಮಗೆ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ ನಮಗೆ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ದೇರ್. ವಿ ನೋ ದಟ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಗಾಟ್ ಟ್ರಯಲ್ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. I think what we are lacking, even I can tell you about big firms I've seen in Bangalore also, what we are lacking is not on the working paper. What we are lacking is a document which proves to us that what decisions we have taken and why we have taken those decisions. For example, on the qualification ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ key audit matter ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ dropping of a qualification ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ it can be other matter, right? What has made us take that, take this decision? That documentation is lacking. So if you ask me, defending in disciplinary cases, you will have to develop documentation as to what have been your judgments. That is very, very important. Otherwise, your financial statements, trial balance, adala idde there. But you should, I think this becomes a very important part, right? Charging fee on the basis of relief of disputed tax and appeal with a permitted non-audit client. Yes, I can do that. Non-audit client. Audit client, you can't do that. You can say this is consultancy basis, and non-audit client you can charge on the POC basis, and I mean the total amount of relief given, but not for an audit client. So I think both the questions I've answered. Many POCs are ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ತಾಳಿ ನಾನು.
ಏನು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, nothing.
ಬರ್ಲಿ ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. Many POC banks offer statutory audit with the condition that acceptance within 24 hours without even communicating the particulars of the previous auditor. Again, I know this has happened especially this time because of COVID. ಬಂದು ಇವತ್ತು almost like threat they have said that ನೀವು ತಗೊಂಡಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬಿಡಿ ಬೇರೆ ಅವರು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ. So my personal view, I do not know if this is going to be very palatable to all the members here, but my personal view is that I will tell them that I will accept at my own time. I will not accept just because they ask me to accept in 24 hours. I know it's important. I know the audit is important for all of you, but I will not budge on certain principles. Okay, if it is a simple document ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮುಂಚೆ ನೀವು ಮಾಡಿದಿರ ಬ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಅನ್ನ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಹೊಸ ಬ್ಯಾಂಕ್, ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, I can tell you my own wife, she's also a chartered accountant. She got an offer from, I think, State Bank of India. Same threat. She said within 24 hours you should, but I don't agree for this. Let us see what he's going to do. He's going to say no to you, right? That's all. Maximum you're going to lose audit. I'm not saying that we should do this, but that is very, very important, right? So, Anil Kumar himself has asked a question for new member: how to promote his practice without violating the code of conduct. Okay. Sir, new member, ನೀವು ಕೋಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಾಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ಸದ್ಯ ಪಕ್ಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಡಿ. ನೀವು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ನೀವು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಡೆವಲಪಿಂಗ್ ಯುವರ್ ಕ್ಲೈಂಟ್. ಕೋಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಾಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಫಾಲೋ ಆಟೋಮ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್ಲಿ. ಬಟ್ my advice to all of you would probably be that, now we know this is not going to be practicable, but at least initially, but still, as you start your practice, initially, the first few years of my practice, what will you do? Ella ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು. I will do professional tax registration. I will do, anything I will do, right? It's inevitable. ಏನು ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಮಾಡಲೇಬೇಕು. There's no, two ways about it, because it's a question of survival here. It's not a question of, I want to do something and I'm not able to do it. ಅಂತದಿಲ್ಲ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ. It's a question of survival. But my advice to all of you will be that once you start, you always think of specializing in one area. See, today there's no question of difference between Davangere and Bangalore. Even after COVID, now what has happened is that everything is becoming online now. You can do this from wherever you want. One is you think of the situation wherein, you could probably do this online. It could be anything. Always start off doing everything for the purpose of working capital, but end up specializing. That should be your first goal. My advice to all the young members would probably be that, people who are starting their practice newly, and I feel this is a mistake which everybody does. And we've also done a mistake. I'm not trying to say anything for you, right? Somehow in the question of fees, we seem to be a little bit, going, to put the word very honestly, going below the minimum level, right? And my advice is that there are so many ways we can get, better money. Like say, if you can write an article, you can probably get the full amount of fees. I'm not saying you can write a book, right? There are a lot of things you can do. So my advice will be that develop your clientele, specialize in one area, but as far as fees is concerned, don't go below the Lakshman Rekha. Whatever it may be in your mind you made up, don't go below it, right? Don't worry too much about the code of conduct. The only place new members will be violating the code of conduct will be in fees, right? Second, and probably this advice is to, all the members in general also, is that we spoke about all these threats and all those things. Again, even with the client, you'll have to put your foot down at some point of time. So this also becomes important, whatever it may be. You may have a very strong view, he may have a strong view, but you feel that you're the auditor, your view is correct, you'll have to put down some in the report. In terms of fees and the Lakshman Rekha of, what you can do for the client to accommodate the client, both these places, if you don't go below your threshold limit, I think you'll be safe as a practicing professional, right? All right, thank you. Ashton sir, you had a question, but I think I've answered all the questions.
Sir, that's the only questions right now we are having, sir.
Right.
We are thankful for your patience, valuable sharing your valuable time with us and spending a lot of knowledgeable thoughts with.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Vote of thanks for good. Now the session has been closed. Thank you very much for participating in the webinar.